Okay, here's my reading interactive notebook, which I will use for my students in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. This is my notebook, and I will just use it as a resource to pull out any lessons that I feel is needed to use with Reading Street. So first, here's my cover. So all the students will have a cover in their notebook, and they will personalize it. Then all the students will probably have a pocket here to put any work in progress or any foldables that they cut before they glue. If they don't have time, they could put it in here. All right, so we have the table of contents page, which will list everything in the notebook in case students do have to go back and review any particular skill or strategy. All right, so we're going to go to page 4 or 5, and it's all numbered. Here, for example, I have character traits or words that describe a character's thoughts, words, and behaviors. And underneath each one, it provides examples in a story to show that a character is sad or angry and so on. I think I prefer this for my 3rd grade students, this particular activity. On page 13, I have at the beginning when implementing stations and centers and discussing the routine and expectations, like how to read to somebody. All right, so that I will make sure to include that next year because I just started this now, the end of November, the beginning of December. Another example I have here is page 28. All right, you have, like, for example, synonyms for boring character trait words, and underneath I have better words when teaching that lesson. To have the students dig deeper into character traits that I feel now with the Common Core, more work needs to be done with characterization and character traits. Another page is page 31 that I like also, along with the work with characterization. Digging deeper character traits. I even had them highlight, I'll have them highlight the positive traits versus the negative traits. And it depends on how it is used in the story. It depends on the character. All right, so next one, well, let's skip to page 38. All right, there's one on text features. There are 3 main types of text features. Navigators, types of print, visual features, and they could create a little book to be used as a resource to remind them what an index, table of contents, glossary, title, heading, menu, sidebar, icon. This is for electronic navigators. Hyperlink, and underneath they have it. Like I said, this is more like, to me, like a handbook that we can refer to during the year. We have visual features, flat book, cutaway table, maps, labels, captions. All right, so that is up to page 42. Let's jump to page 46. Here we have the literary plot as when teaching literary elements. And underneath, it explains what each of them is. You can have the kids write it themselves, or you can have them cut them out and decide where it belongs before they glue. So sort of knowing the definition of each. The plot mountain. Okay, then, for example, then they can complete this for a story. So here they did for the Island of the Blue Dolphins, naming each part of the plot. And then another thing is that you can assess them. So you can give a literary elements plot assessment. It says fold on the line, cut each flap, and under the flap, write the literary plot elements for the novel. So for a particular novel, or to describe what each of those terms, each of those words mean. Then we can jump to page 55. Here, for example, students need a lot of work with making inferences. What I already know. Clue from the text, they could write it underneath. And here's to use with a particular read aloud story. Okay, now there's other ones. Establishing tone through dialogue. When you feel you need to teach that. We have genres to be reminded, and underneath each flap they can explain what is each type of genre, like what a science fiction is, what an adventure is, fantasy, when deciding on the genre for a particular piece. So this they can go back to as often as they need. Another one is 67 to 68. For example, context clues. On the park and our weekly assessments, I think it's important for students to understand the types of context clues. All right, here's for type, and here's an example. Underneath, it tells them what to do, what this means. When you find another word in the sentence with the same meaning, we go over examples. Then you can have an independent practice activity or small groups. So they have to find, here's a sentence. They have to figure out what type of context clue it is. And they can just put it together and glue it. So here, just another page of notes. Oh, but this one is we move from context clues to making inferences. Here you have a small passage, and students have to write their prior knowledge and the inference based on this little small passage. Great for practice. Maybe a small group of partners practicing this, okay, strategy, the skill. And then we can do this with any particular text that they're reading or a photo. They can do this independently. So that is an example of a reading interactive notebook. And like I said, it's just more of a handbook, a place for students to share their learning with others and to organize their thinking and to refer to it as often as possible. I think this is better than giving students a worksheet or filling out workbook pages and having the students take time to really think about what they're learning.